This young man was supposed to inherit millions, but instead he was sleeping on a thin foam mattress and working two exhausting jobs just to buy medicine for his sick mother. Every morning, David Okafor wore the same worn-out shoes with soles that had almost completely fallen apart. During the day, he worked as a supermarket cashier. At night, he drove strangers around Lagos in a borrowed car. Some nights, he slept for only 3 hours. The painful part? His 3 older brothers were living in luxury, enjoying the fortune their father had spent his entire life building. How did one son lose everything while the others became millionaires? This is the heartbreaking, true-to-life story of David Okafor. It all began on a Monday morning. At exactly 8:17 a.m., 19-year-old David had just arrived for his first lecture at the University of Lagos when his phone began to ring. It was his mother. She had already called 3 times. David smiled as he answered. "Mama, I'm in class. I'll call you, but..." Before he could finish, her trembling voice interrupted him. "David, your father has collapsed." For a moment, the world stood still. His heart began pounding. "What? They're taking him to St. Nicholas Hospital. Please come quickly." The call ended. David grabbed his backpack and ran out of the lecture hall without saying another word. By the time he arrived at the hospital, relatives had already gathered outside the emergency ward. His 3 older brothers were standing together with the doctors, Michael, Charles, Kelvin. David rushed toward them. "Where's Dad?" No one answered immediately. Michael slowly lowered his head. "I'm sorry." David pushed past everyone and entered the intensive care unit. His father, Chief Emmanuel Okafor, lay motionless on the hospital bed. Machines surrounded him. A breathing tube covered his mouth. This wasn't the energetic businessman who always left home before sunrise. This wasn't the loving father who never forgot David's birthday. This wasn't the man who called every Friday just to ask, "Have you eaten?" Now, he couldn't even open his eyes. 3 days later, Chief Emmanuel Okafor passed away without regaining consciousness. His funeral brought together politicians, church leaders, business executives, journalists, and hundreds of mourners. Everyone praised the successful entrepreneur who had built one of Lagos's fastest-growing logistics companies from nothing. But after the funeral ended, the real tragedy began. David's mother, Grace Okafor, completely lost herself. Every evening she sat alone inside her late husband's study. Sometimes she picked up his reading glasses and stared at them for hours. Sometimes she hugged his favorite sweater, hoping to catch the fading scent of his cologne. David often found her crying in silence. He would simply sit beside her without speaking. Sometimes, love doesn't need words. A week after the funeral, Michael called a family meeting. He told everyone the businesses needed to be managed immediately. Grace trusted her sons completely. She believed they only wanted to protect the family. Over the following weeks, lawyers came to the mansion almost every day. Documents filled the dining table. Whenever David asked questions, Michael always smiled and said, "Don't worry, we're handling everything." Still grieving, Grace signed every document they placed before her. 10 pages, 20 pages, sometimes even more. She never read a single one. After all, these were her own sons. She trusted them with all her heart. Nearly 3 months later, David returned home from his internship and immediately sensed something was wrong. His mother sat silently in the living room, her eyes swollen from crying. Without saying a word, she handed him an envelope. Inside were the official estate documents. David read them once, then again, then a third time. His hands began to shake. According to the documents, Michael now owned 60% of everything. Charles owned 25%. Kelvin owned 15%. David inherited absolutely nothing. Not a single company, not a single property, not even the family home. The documents claimed his father believed he was too young to receive an inheritance. David looked at his mother. "This isn't possible." Grace slowly shook her head. "Your father would never do this." That night, she confronted her older sons. "What have you done?" Michael calmly replied. "Mom, everything is legal." Charles folded his arms. "These are official documents." Then Kelvin quietly spoke the words that destroyed her. "You signed them." The room fell silent. Grace stared at her own trembling hands. She suddenly remembered every piece of paper they had placed before her while she was drowning in grief. Every signature, every page, without realizing it. She had unknowingly signed away David's future. She collapsed into tears. The next morning, David and his mother visited an independent lawyer. After reviewing every document, the lawyer sighed. "The signatures are genuine," Grace's voice trembled. "But I didn't know what I was signing." "I believe you," the lawyer replied, "but proving that in court will be extremely difficult." Even so, David refused to give up. The lawsuit lasted almost 3 long years. Court hearings became adjournments. Adjournments became months. Months became years. The legal bills kept growing. Eventually, David had no choice but to drop out of university. By day, he worked as a supermarket cashier. By night, he drove for a ride-hailing service. Some nights, he barely slept. His mother was forced to leave the family mansion after her own sons told her she was no longer welcome if she continued supporting David. Together, they moved into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment in Surulere. Grace slept in the bedroom. David slept on a worn-out foam mattress in the sitting room. Whenever money became scarce, David always smiled and said, "Mama, I already ate at work." But it was never true. He simply wanted her to have enough food. As the years passed, Grace's health grew worse. High blood pressure, diabetes, constant hospital visits. Every naira David earned disappeared into rent, food, and medicine. Sometimes he walked several kilometers to work because he couldn't afford transport after buying her prescriptions. One rainy evening, Grace noticed the soles of David's shoes had completely come apart. "My son, when did this happen?"
They're still good, Mama.
She knew he was lying. That night, she cried herself to sleep. Finally, Judgment Day arrived. The courtroom was packed. Grace held David's hand tightly. The judge reviewed the evidence, then spoke the words that shattered every hope they still had. "The claimant has failed to establish fraud. The case is dismissed." Just like that, everything was over. Outside the courthouse, Grace broke down in tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. David hugged her tightly. "You didn't steal from me." They did. 6 months later, Grace suffered a stroke. Before she took her final breath, she held David's hand one last time. "Promise me something." "What is it, Mama?" "Don't let what your brothers did make you become like them." David couldn't answer. He was already crying. She smiled softly, then closed her eyes forever. David buried his mother with money borrowed from friends. His 3 brothers never attended her funeral. They simply sent a wreath with a small card that read, "Our condolences." Years later, Michael appeared on magazine covers celebrating business excellence. Charles expanded the family business across West Africa. Kelvin became a successful real estate developer. People admired them. People called them self-made men. No one knew the painful price their youngest brother had paid. David never returned to university. He continued working ordinary jobs just to survive. Sometimes he would stop outside one of his father's office buildings and quietly look up. Not because he still dreamed of owning it, but because he remembered walking through those same doors as a little boy holding his father's hand. He would smile sadly, then continue walking, because sometimes life doesn't reward the innocent. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones we call family. And not every victim gets justice. If this story touched your heart, remember this: never let greed destroy the people you love, because money can be replaced, but family, once broken, is often lost forever. Like and subscribe for more interesting stories.